Okay, this is the December 10th, 2020 Tree Council meeting. Our chairman, Carol Carey, is going to be a little bit late. So, and we don't have a quorum to vote on the minutes. December is always a tough time for our volunteers. But there are kind of two discussion items really quickly that we could go through and just chat about, which we were sort of chatting before we started the meeting. And then if anybody has anything to add to the reports, we can go through that, but I think it should be a really fast meeting. So my notes on here. So for planning projects, I was just looking at what we discussed at the last meeting was setting up a site visit for Shannon Boulevard and inviting the guy from the Landis Arboretum. I have not done that yet, but as long as it's okay with you guys, I think, Chris, we talked about sending out one date. I'll actually send out 2 dates and see if I can organize a tree council meeting for the Shannon Boulevard. Because, and I had forgotten this until I was looking at what our last meeting was, but we were going to try and see if we can kind of classify that as valuable habitat, and that shows that we are doing our best to preserve it. And then I had really good conversation with Paul Gallery from the Nature Conservancy about the south side of the Leisha Kill, and I kind of showed him a map, which if you guys want to see, I can pop it up really quickly, about how the proposed extension to the Leisha Kill would work. And I mean, it's still very far away, and I know that a lot of people have some concerns with the slope in that area, but it does, I think, and you guys know to take what, my positivity with a grain of salt, it looks good, I think. So I'm really excited about that. I can show you the map if you want to see it, or we can just work through that as we do our site meeting or whatever. What's you guys' preference?
I've seen the map, so I'm good.
Yeah, CIC delved way farther into it than Tree Council. You're really aware of how that works. Okay. And then
Laura,
yeah.
So the purpose of the site meeting is to review that site, or is that a different location? I guess
No, it's to review that site. There's kind of 2 things that the Tree Council is looking at very specifically on that project. One, I think, is the open space that was negotiated kind of is what it is. But you know how we're kind of looking for unique and valuable trees? I think there may be some there. And so I think it's helpful for the Tree Council to go and look. It is a very steep slope, and we're talking oak trees that look like they're old silver maples that, well, like that silver maple on the really sharp turn of Rosendale Road. I mean, they're that big, but they're oaks and they're on a steep slope. So my guess is that they're probably never been cut or haven't been cut for hundreds of years. So that I think would be important to just have that, so that while we're talking about conserving it, we can also talk that it's kind of like a special place or has some special trees in it. And then the other very specific thing about this project is we didn't want to go out there until the developer had kind of he's actually put flags in on where he wants to put the houses and then potential areas for the driveways. And what we want to do is really look at very specifically where the driveways are coming out to see if we can shift them one way or another to protect some of the trees, and see if, if we flip the driveway to the other side of the house, if the trees on one side of the property have a little more value than the trees on the other. There's so much interest in this land for trees that it's been referred to you guys like from 3 different boards to really look at where those driveways are and maximize the number of trees that can be saved. So that's our main goal on that. And we didn't want to do a site visit until he had flagged kind of where the lots are going to go. And they are flagged now. So I can send those dates out to you guys.
Okay.
Sounds good.
And then...
So just a quick thing. What committee is handling then the potential development of a trailhead at that location? Is that the proposed location then for a trailhead? And that would be on town property? And does that it doesn't necessarily fall under the jurisdiction of this committee, or does it?
So I would think it could, but a lot of times trail development falls under like the highway committee. So we could help to the extent that, we can see the value of the land and the connections to like nature. But I think like the actual physical creation of the trail and where the parking heads and stuff go, that would all go through the highway committee.
Okay.
I say highway committee, that's because highway and parks are under the same department head. So it's highway and parks committee.
Okay.
But there's kind of two places that you could park. But we're thinking that it's probably, I'll just show you guys really quickly. We have time. Oops. Probably we want the parking to be on Route 7 because there's already a curb cut there, and that's where you can kind of get into the site right now, and that'll have a lot less impact on the neighbors. But I do think that it's kind of important, if you can see this, that there still be a walking trail over to the neighbors, because like all of these guys, these neighbors, they're not going to walk all the way down Shannon Boulevard over to down Choice Connector Street and then start from there. You know what I mean? They're
Right.
going to want to cut through this park space. So this would just be like just a walking trail for these guys' neighbors. And then
Right.
this would be where people, you know, live farther away or, you know, from outside of town would park, because this is where the existing path kind of is. And then this is the this little hanger nail thing is all Nature Conservancy owned, and then you can do whatever you want really with the South Side trails, which I think that's like Paul's deal. He can figure that out. We'll figure this out, and then you guys can figure that out.
Right. Yeah, that sounds good. Just a quick question about your map. What does the yellow polygon denote?
That's the new area that the town would be getting. This is like where I think that those special trees are.
Okay. And then there's
So
like
right now,
a house
this is
there
basically-
right now?
Are they what?
There's an old house there now or not?
Yeah.
Or-
The
okay.
old house is right here. Can you see this little square? It might be kind of.
Yep.
Yeah. And there is an existing trail there. I
Okay.
think fishermen use it. So we're just kind of enhancing the existing trail. It's steep though, just like most of the Laishakil.
Yeah. So I guess that'll be the thing is that, I guess that would be my recommendation as the highway department and the parks and rec department consider the development of that trail, that they just get a better sense of, what, putting in a trail on a steep slope like that would, undertake to kind of minimize potential erosion. So, but Paul too would be a source for that. So that new
Hopefully, lean on the Nature Conservancy a little for that, because I had a long conversation with someone who was interested in buying the houses, and they wanted like a concrete wall or something between the trail and the slope, and I was like, that I hear why that is, scary to you, but I just think like with the, the financial climate and just logistics, like probably the best thing you can do there is like a split rail fence, but I'm not sure. Like maybe the Nature Conservancy has better ideas than I do. So,
it's more if I don't know we can take a look at the grade of the slope and stuff, and Paul could probably give you some ideas. But at Laishakil, I don't know if you've been there within the last year or so, but Paul, put in that first section in that bench cut, and so it took at least it was a crew. But it took them almost a week to at least do the top part. But I think it was like $10,000. So if the trail is steep, it might require, but then, highway department might be able to do it. I don't know. I'm just giving you a heads up that there might be some labor or / expense. It's not just raking some leaves aside.
No, there definitely is, because there's also a stream crossing down here. There's no doubt.
Okay.
There's a reason it hasn't been done before, but if we work together as a team and the town is committed to it, which I think they will be, and we can minimize costs, I think that's probably where we would land.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I mean, it's having a access point right on Route 7 is, I think would be huge. So as far as attracting the general public to give them a new recreational opportunity,
Yeah, I agree, right? It's good for residents and just good for our town in general. And it's so beautiful. We build those trails. If you can come, because I really think some of those trees are special.
I will.
Yeah.
I'll try.
Hi, Carol just joined.
Hi, Carol.
Hi.
Hi, Carol.
Hey, Carol.
Hi. sitting here with dilated pupils. From the eye doctors.
Oh, no.
So Carol, we were just talking about an update. I'm going to send out sometimes to see if we can get the tree council out to the planning department update is really, we're just talking about the Shannon Boulevard and what we can do as a tree council. And so I'll send out some times. And we were just looking at a map that we had kind of tossed around with the Nature Conservancy on the Leishkill, but we do have to go into it with open eyes because there are a lot of steep slopes. And Chris was just wondering what our responsibilities are, versus like, highway department, town board kind of thing. And really, like, I think we're just figuring out the habitat and doing what we can to connect things and save as many trees as possible and make recommendations. But the highway parks department would probably end up, doing all the development and stuff like that.
Okay.
Okay. Did you guys have any other specific questions on planning projects that you've heard of that we've looked at? I have a little bit of work to do. I went out today to Blatnick Park, mostly because I was at River Road Park and got really muddy boots and didn't want to go into town hall with like cakes of mud on the bottom. So I decided to walk around Blatnick Park in the grass and look at the elm trees that had been planted. And I don't know if you guys have any availability. I'm reaching out to the town supervisor. I mean, they're good, healthy trees, and they're all where we asked for them to be planted, but they don't have mulch around them. And a couple of them, I think, could be straightened. So I think it's probably an hour and a half of time if we got a couple volunteers out there and I could get the materials out there to just straighten them a little and mulch them so that they'll be good for going over the winter. So I don't know if anybody's interested in helping me on that, but I did want to try and put that out there so that if we have some time, we could kind of tuck them in for the winter and get them straightened out.
Yeah, I might be able to, Lauren. I just took a look at them 2 days ago and thought the same thing. Yeah,
just a little extra help. I mean, they'll probably survive the winter, but if we get them straightened out now and get them mulched in, I think they'll look a lot nicer in the spring and stuff too. So, okay. So now I kind of have 3. Okay, so we'll schedule a walkthrough for Shannon. I'll see if you guys have any availability once I get the materials out there to help with Blatnick Park, and that just should be quick, I think. And then Chris and I were talking about like a video conference date for the master plan, which we can talk about in a second. Okay. Anything else from any of you guys on planning? Okay, so then the next one was the master plan. I attached, it's sort of like a shell of the master plan. I liked the formatting. That's what Weston Sampson put together. Chris and Andrea and Steve, who's no longer with us, and I had a meeting with him kind of ages ago about what that formatting would be looking like. And he's kind of waiting for data from me, which I still haven't given him, but he decided to do the formatting anyway. So he's got like some of the stuff that they would put in. He's got kind of the shell of what it would look like. And then we do have to get some data to him so that he can, flesh out more. But that's kind of where the master plan is going. So if you guys had any thoughts about it or questions, we could give that feedback to him. I don't know if anybody had a chance to look at it.
I briefly looked over it, and I guess what I would suggest is, so we talked about having a meeting next week to kind of go over some of the details in regards to figuring out what pieces of information we are responsible for, and then dividing up that labor. So Amanda or Carol, I know that you're not necessarily on our committee, but we're one person down. So if you're interested in joining, maybe we can send that out. And so I guess the main pieces where we're committed to providing some of the street tree, like figures and tables for the Old Niskayuna pilot study area. And so I think that's the most immediate issue, and then data that we would want to input into the plan. But then I think once we get a little bit further along, closer to a draft, then I think that we would want to have one whole meeting for the tree committee just to review the goals, and just kind of review the goals and make sure that we have good alignment. And then I guess the second piece, what we talked about, Laura, is the town highway department. So like, have they, so I guess at some point maybe we go a little bit further along than have the town highway department or other stakeholders, take a look as well. So.
Yeah, because we talked about like sometimes the highway department I think gets a little frustrated with us, not because anything that you guys are doing, just because they're very busy and I'm, a pester to them. But what we had talked about at that meeting, which the contractor is still under the understanding, is that he might reach out to them directly so that there isn't like me sitting in the room with little Laura World, like, crushing everything. And then they could share with him what some of their concerns and frustrations were. And then he can kind of be like the mediator and figure out what they need versus what we need and kind of put it all together in his plan. And that's still his plan. We've kind of reached out with him twice to the highway department to try and set up a meeting. And it's just a busy time. But I think that, yeah, we want their specific input to be put into the plan and then them to review it. And I mean, if you guys are okay with it, once we get that, I do think it would be kind of cool to do an email blast and have the public look at it. And then, as a draft, just like not a comprehensive plan, but, just say, hey, give us any comments that you have and, leave it open for a week or two. And then we could incorporate and review any comments that the public had on it as well.
Yeah, so like a public comment period on a close to draft. Yeah, I think that's fine. I think, just briefly looking at it, I think it looks really good. One of the things that he put in there that I think will need some discussion is about a street tree ordinance. And so that was one of the key pieces that I did flag. So we'll need to, we've had a lot of discussion about that, but I would tend to think that that would be one item that would require some discussion and alignment amongst, the town.
Yeah, Will. Okay, so I'll double check that one.
In a little bit. I'm on my tree council meeting right now.
Okay, so
Amanda, any comments or feedback on that? Like, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, I didn't really get a chance to look at the plan. I'm impressed, like, by how much has been put in there. But if you need any help on anything, I'm willing and able, hopefully able.
Yeah, I think that
We're kind of thin, but
what's that, Aria?
Yeah.
Yeah, right now you're kind of taxed out, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, a little bit right now. It's not really a good time for me to like go add another meeting to my day or whatever, but
well, why don't Laura and I suggest.
I think Jonathan said he might be interested. Maybe we could rope him into it because he's new and he hasn't really committed himself.
Yeah, what we should do is just me and you should meet next week, Laura. Well, and then if, Andrea wants to meet with us because she was part of that original group. And then we should just define like what we can take on and set ourselves a timeline to get it done. And then that'll motivate me to have a deadline. And then we'll figure out if there's pieces that we can't take on because we're just can't only do so much, or reach out to you possibly then to say, would you be willing to write this section?
And I can take a look at it. This is Carol. I had to step out for a minute and maybe meet next week.
Okay.
I think all of our subcommittees are getting a little thin. We lost a couple people on ours. So I think, we need to kind of look at, but I'd be willing to try to meet next week.
That'd be great. Yeah. So I think that, if you could do that, and then, I think too, as like kind of the chair of the committee, taking on, making sure that everything looks good.
Okay.
Just would be really helpful probably, and I'll take a look at it too.
Okay, sounds good.
Great.
Our committees are down too because we're actually 2 people down in the tree council. So we might do like an email blast, but if somebody is looking, has some time because they're working from home and they're not commuting anymore and they'd be interested, feel free to have them send me their resume.
Okay. Yeah, and I think a couple of the people who left were on a couple different subcommittees. So.
Yeah, I think Melissa was on 2.
Yeah.
Steve was on 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are a little thin right now because we do a lot as a tree committee. So it's hard when we lose our.
Yeah, that would be the thing as we think about maybe the work plan for the upcoming year. I mean, and I'm just going to try to figure out how to get this plan done, and that'll be my main focus. And so maybe trying to pare down, yeah.
We are very active, and I think it does sometimes get tiring, but in December, it's also, everybody, I think, is pretty maxed out. So.
Yeah, it's a tough month. So.
Yeah.
But January, we have to start planning the Arbor Day event.
Don't tell Carol that.
Well, before the end of this month, we have to get that Tree City application in, don't we, Laura?
Yes, and Carol, I tried a couple times this morning so it's interesting. I am having a very hard time with the password. I can get in because my computer remembers it, but I can't figure out how to reset it or what it is.
Because there wasn't.
I'm like, oh, maybe I don't have to reset it. I'll just send it to Carol. It's not doing very, but I'll keep working on it. And
well, if you want, I was talking to somebody from the Arbor Day and they could have switched it over to me, but I wasn't sure if you wanted me to do that as the.
Oh, that would be fine.
Okay. Let me work with them and see if I can't get in so we can figure out what we need to submit by the end of the month.
So I did get in, and I started a little bit, and mostly like you have to fill in the tree council members, which takes a little time. And I was like, oh, I have a second, like I'll fill it in. So I actually filled the whole thing in, then got a phone call, walked away, and I never clicked the save button on the internet. So I erased everything that I did, and I was like, oh, that's such a sad story.
Do you think we'll be okay? I mean, we did some activities like the drive-by Arbor Day, and we planted the elm trees, but the budgetary thing where you have to have a certain amount of money. What's that? I
have to do that part, but you can do all the other parts.
Yeah, but I mean, you think we're going to meet that requirement? It was a certain amount per resident and I don't know if our budget has been cut or there was like a budgetary requirement.
It's been easy for us to meet that because the cash that is dedicated in our budget was high enough that we could just be like, look, this is our budget. Do you see how much we spend on trees? And we have never used things that could calculate towards it, such as the highway department's labor costs for taking the trees down, the highway department's time and hours for pruning trees. All of those things actually count. We've never had to use them. We may have to use them a bit this year because we didn't spend as much as a miscellaneous that we normally do, but we are doing our tree master plan, which I think also counts. Next year, I think, we might even have to count our time, like, and volunteer hours and stuff like that in order to get there. But I still think we'll get there.
Okay.
It's just, it's been easy before, and it's going to have to be more documented now than it was before.
I bet you Carol charges $100 an hour. So
there we go.
I think the going rate, which is a sad story for volunteers, is like $21 maybe an hour for a volunteer.
Yeah, it adds up. Quick thing just to comment, and I think this is a committee discussion, but something to kind of think about as I kind of think back to our discussion post Arbor Day from last year, but thinking about the location, just trying to get a sense of what might be the best fit to kind of mediate traffic and some of the other issues.
Yeah, good point.
I'm just suggesting maybe it makes sense to move it back to Blotnick Park or one of the other parks where you could accommodate people coming in and out and figuring out how to social distance. Given that it was so popular.
Yes, and if we have to do a drive-through one again, I think we should probably do River Road and literally hand them out at the end, the River Road Park, and hand them out at the end of the cul-de-sac, because that can take I mean, if you had all those cars, you would be able to line up a ton of cars through there if you needed to. I think you could handle the amount of cars that we had before.
I was thinking somewhere along the same lines. Exactly. Yeah.
A long driveway park. Yeah. If you did Blatnick Park, you would want to go like to the very end of the soft baseball fields, so that you could line them up there too. But hopefully we won't have to do a drive-through one, but you never know.
Right.
People really did like that. It did bring, I think, a lot of joy during some dark times. So
Yeah, and we're talking like March, right? Is that right? Or is it April? I can't remember.
It's April, the end of April, like the 20, the last Saturday in April.
So we got a long ways to go before April, but
if you wanted to, I think we could go back to River Road Park, because I was just out there today. That's why my boots were so muddy. We didn't want to go out there when they were doing a bunch of work on the fields and stuff, but they are finalizing a fair amount of drainage along that trail. We do have some dead trees out there that I forgot to replace this year. So there's a decent amount of work that could be done, and it is a good place if we have to do social distancing because the driveway is so long. So it'll support either type of event. So maybe we should we could hone in on River Road Park if we wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I actually was going to stop at River Road Park and pulled in and saw all the heavy equipment and just decided, well, I'll
Keep
walk
going.
somewhere else today. Yeah.
They're almost done. It's a lot of work that they're doing out there.
That and Mohawk Road. So every
Yes.
day.
You're like surrounded. Oh, 32, really?
Oh, okay.
Chris
It's
from
going up.
I guess so.
Okay. So that's a good status update on the master plan. If I might just I'll schedule the master plan meeting and then just let the people who knows, because we're very short on this meeting on people. If any of the people who weren't able to attend tonight just had any quick comments that we can use kind of to structure where we're going, then I can incorporate that into the meeting next week. So we will just ask them if they had any additional comments. And I promised you guys it would be quick. So I think probably, I don't know that we really have a whole lot of committee reports. We've kind of covered them under discussion items. Carol, did you want to talk about anything specifically? Oh, and if you guys want to talk about 2021 goals, we can. Or if we just want to kind of defer that to January, we can dive in with a bigger board. We can also do that.
Yeah, probably when we have more people, but I'm glad you sent them out so we can kind of look at them. It looked like we had a lot of goals, but I'm not sure how much we got accomplished this year.
I was reading and I was like, oh, we didn't do that, but we did that.
So.
Quick question as far as a street tree master plan inventory item topic. Did we end up submitting that, or did you end up submitting that grant for additional inventory funding from the state? I think that, remember, we were pulling that together last winter, and I can't even remember. And I was just thinking, I think the main goal for us is just finish the plan. But then I just want to put on my radar screen, if we were getting a grant, or there's a possibility we were getting a grant for more inventory work, that would require a pretty big lift.
Yeah, we don't have a possible. So I may have the year slightly off, but I don't think I did. We submitted in 2018, and I don't think we were far enough along on our inventory and had enough match. And it's a very competitive grant. So we were just saying, like, we don't really know what we're doing. Please give us $50,000. And they said no.
But didn't you submit something in 2020, though? I thought that you...
Yeah, so then it came out in 2019, and we had started our work, and it has come out every single year for like 14 rounds of grants or something like that. And so in 2019, we were ramping up our thing that we did with Cornell, and we were ramping up a lot of the work that we did, but I wanted to pass. So I passed on 2019 because it was still very early in the stuff that we were doing to get ourselves grant ready. So we basically did everything that we need to submit for the 2020 round, and we're really good to go. And they never issued the 2020 round. I don't think. They're actually awarding right now the 2019 round, and they haven't issued a 2020. So I think they're probably going to skip it. but we are very ready for when those grant rounds come out again. They do a 2021 round. We have all the matching. We have everything that we've done in the past to meet the criteria that we didn't have before, and we're there. We just need them to come out with an RFP.
Right.
We haven't submitted now that we haven't had a chance to submit.
I think at one point DEC froze all outgoing funding from the Environmental Protection Fund, so from the EPF, and so that's, I think. But so thanks for reminding me. I couldn't remember if that went in or not, but that's right.
The timing has just been hard for us, but we are ready. And so if you hear anything, if any of you guys hear anything, we are ready to submit. We just have to have a new RFP come out. And I think it's still going to be a while because they still haven't announced the results from 2019, I don't think.
And are there any other grants we can look at or pursue?
There might be. Those ones are really nice because they fit right into what we do, and we have been ramping ourselves up to be very competitive in them. But there may be some that we haven't looked at. I could kind of review what's out there in the Grants Gateway and take a look.
It's possible that there might be federal funding, but then, yeah, there's probably a lot of issues with trying to apply for a federal grant versus state grants might be slightly easier. I don't know. Or more familiar.
Yeah, federal grants have a lot more paperwork involved and strings attached, but they're not the end of the world. We've done both at the town of Niskayuna.
Okay, great. So I'll keep my eyes out as well. That's a good point.
Okay, yeah. So if you guys hear anything, we are ready. We just, because it's been such a long, we're waiting for an RFP now.
Great.
Good.
And we'll kick butt when it comes out. Okay, so did you guys want to add anything so the goals are out there. We'll consider them. I'll bring them back as a formal discussion item in January. Did you guys want to add anything on the on the subcommittee reports?
I don't think so for public outreach. It's just Amanda and me now on public outreach because we lost both Steve and Melissa. And I think the Tree City application is the key thing that we need to do right now. And then, come January, we can think about Arbor Day and then any other, for next year, any other public outreach or educational activities that we want to do. But I think the key thing right now is the Tree City application.
Okay, Carol, when you talk to him, can you ask him if we can both have access or if it's only one person, or have you already asked them that?
I think it's only one person, but yeah. But
I think
if I switch it to me, I can just give you my password. Once one of us gets in, we can just share. So
okay, I think we should switch it to you, because you can put all of that, and then if you have questions, email it to me, and like you said, we can share the access. So, but that way it'll give you more flexibility because I can only get into it on my browser that remembers how to get into it. So. Okay.
Sounds good.
And Chris, I feel like we pretty much talked about the tree master plan. Is there anything you wanted to talk about on our subcommittee? I feel like we're pretty good there.
All good.
And then the tree planting subcommittee, I don't believe we have really anybody in attendance that's on that. That's Amy and Paul right now. So we'll come back to them. I noticed, we have goals and stuff for them. But I think, we did good. Again, we did both spring and fall plantings in a year of all years. We still managed to get those trees in. So I think we have a lot to be proud of for this year. So. Okay.
In that regard, I'm sure that you already have kind of thought about this. Are there year-end funds that need to be expended in regards to purchasing trees?
So we try to do that at the end of every year, and we have typically been able to secure about $3,000 to $4,000 worth of elms. But this year, they're trying to roll as much unspended fund balance into next year to help with the deficit. And so there's really a lot of incentives and direction to not kind of do those year-end spendings that we typically do, so that so I, to the extent that I can get anything ordered, I was already thinking about it today when I was walking through town hall. I would try, but I don't think it'll be the same as what we've done before. And we do have to be, like I said, they're trying to pull all of that back into the general fund to the maximum extent that they can. So if we did, it would be small.
And Laura, do you know what our budget is? Do we have any budget for next year?
So they did not touch the planting budget at all, which is good. They took some away from the miscellaneous. I think they halved the miscellaneous, which, you know, isn't great, and it's going to make it harder for us to, like I said, keep track of how we're going to have to keep track of more of our hours and stuff like that in order to meet the spending requirement to be a tree city. But the majority of the planting and the replacement money is still there because trees are a high priority in the town of Niskuna, and they recognize that people talk to them regularly about how that is a reason that people move here and how it does have such a good impact on property value. So they didn't really didn't do too much damage to the planting and the replacement.
Okay.
Hello, Laura, Paul here.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, sorry I'm late. Caitlin took my time up. But if you recall, I'm kind of concerned about having the miscellaneous because the whole goal, well, not the whole goal, but a lot of the justification for increasing that was to cover tree removal of silver maples that are going to be dropping like flies in the next, upwards of, 5 to 10 years. And they're going to have to go outside to have a lot of that work done. So they're going to be in trouble with that.
We did. Both Ray and I did tell them that. Unfortunately, the last couple of years, we have not lost a lot of silver maples. And so
Yeah, well, it's coming. It's coming. But it's coming.
Well, and also
was-
the elms. So it's not
it
just the
wasn't
silver
true.
maples. We know we're going to have to remove a lot of elm trees.
It's just short-sighted. It's you can't just go from they may need $20,000-$30,000 a year for several years, and you can't go from zero to that in 1 year. So you got to phase into that. But oh well.
Paul, we were talking about, I think, a good point there, and maybe you can help us with that. But after the first of the year, we're going to try to work, kind of start to finalize the draft of the street tree master plan. But it's possibility just with the old Niskayuna inventory data that we have, we could try to project out what we think might be mortality levels and removals necessary, and then try to maybe attach a price tag to that.
Right. That's a defendable approach that would make sense, and then Ray could look at what he may think he's capable of, doing in-house. But I think the volume's going to get to a point in the near future that they won't be able to do it.
Yeah, and some are so big that you would have to crane them, right? I think you'd have to take them down with a crane.
Many are. It's just unsafe. You can't drop them, so you have to crane most of them. Oh, well, that would be a good approach to have some, defendable numbers. That probably should have been done before the budget was adopted, but oh well.
Well,
we can work really hard on it, and I know that there's going to be a lot of adjustments mid-year. So if we can get those numbers out and see where we're landing, that we may still have a good window of working through that.
Yeah, it's just not going to be. This isn't like an optional project. The trees need to come down. They need to come down. You're not going to, it's not discretionary, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, it's a matter of safety. So, Laura, can you just make a note of that to remind me too, so that Paul will we're going to meet just to kind of figure out what data needs we need for the plan, and I'm going to try to kind of pull that together. But then after the beginning of the year, we can try to figure out the financial aspect of it. So based on the street tree master plan, we could then try to project out mortality over the next 5 to 10 years, and then work with you to come up with a price estimate.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I'll put that in the email that I send you.
Yeah, because I'll forget otherwise.
Yeah. Well, I'm writing it down. So we should be good.
Take my daughter to soccer practice.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
All right, bye-bye.
Paul, did you have anything that you wanted to add for the tree planting subcommittee reports?
No, I do not.
I think that's fine. We were doing they're very light tonight. And so just to recap, we'll look at all the committees and the goals in January. And Paul, we're 2 people down, so our committees are really short. So if you know anybody, have them send their resume in.
Okay. See what I come up with.
I think that's all I have, Carol.
Sounds good. Oh, I had just one quick question. Remember on the last council meeting, they were talking about having a student representative on the council. Has that any more happened with that, Laura?
Well, so Rosemary's gone to a couple of the councils, and Linda has gotten very far along with a application. We've kind of finalized the descriptions of the boards, I would say probably a week and a half ago. And so we just need to marry the application with the boards and then get it out to the schools and to the colleges and probably an email blast. But so I would expect that we'll have it done by our next meeting and potentially have some applications to review for our next meeting. But I don't know if we'll actually have a full youth member, until maybe like February. That'd be my guess.
Okay. Yeah, I just was curious. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a very high priority, for the town board, and so we are trying to work that out and get it out to people as soon as we can. But it does take a little time.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Is that everything?
I think so. Thanks so much, guys. On this cold December night, thanks for joining us.
Yes. And have a good holiday. If we don't see, well, but where some of us are going to meet, but if not, have a wonderful holiday, everyone. So,
Yep. Enjoy the
Same
holiday.
here.
okay.
All right. Bye.
Okay, so we'll adjourn at 6:44, Linda, for the meeting record. And thanks to everybody.
Okay. See you later.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.